A while back, I interviewed Hugh Poland. He is the worship pastor of a pretty good-sized church that's in a suburb of Houston, Texas. And as we talked, Hugh kept like circling back to a theme, the idea of being submitted to your pastor. And that's a thing that I've taught about for years, for decades really, of how important that is. But I just thought it was interesting as I watched through the interview that it just kept kind of recurring. And so I took various pieces and put them together. I think you'll find this worthwhile.
To be subservient to your senior pastor. And I think the need is for a great relationship there, great understanding, and that comes not by accident. It comes by purposeful, great communication. I want to know, where are you going? What's your direction? What are you speaking about? Pastor, are there any songs that you think would specifically fit in or tie into your message? And he knows. He has the right to at any minute say, Hugh, what about changing this song, this song at the close of the service or the opening or whatever? And he knows I will do it. I've learned this. Pastors don't need to be surprised. It's not fair to them. And so I try to never surprise my pastor. I always try to communicate and explain, this is where we're going. There's a word from the Old Testament, a term called armor bearer. It's from 1 Samuel 14 and kind of details some of the actions and attributes of the armor bearer of Jonathan, who was the son of King Saul, the king before King David. And it's a great study to just kind of go through and list the characteristics of an armor bearer and understand that's what we are to be to our senior pastor, to bear him up, to seek to understand, not always to be understood. I made a conscious effort years ago. I will not disagree with my pastor publicly. Even in a business meeting, when I get to have a vote, like everyone else does in the congregation, I will not vote against something that he says, that he wants us to be for. Now, there have been some times when I have maybe been quiet during a business meeting. I will never speak up and say, well, I think, the other side of things. I never disagree with him publicly. Privately, we may have quite a discussion behind closed doors, and I may explain passionately, this is what I believe, this is what I think. But we come out of that room, and I'm committed to unity, because the church needs to see that. They need to see, especially because the tone and the tenor of the church often is set by the senior pastor and the worship leader. And if they see those two working in harmony, working in unison, then they feel at peace. The sheep feel at ease when that's happening. And if we come out of that room, out of that office too many times, and I'm not in agreement with him, then it's up to me to consider, okay, am I the one that needs to find another place to serve? Not him, me.
Like I said, I think you'll find it worthwhile. I want us to remember the big theme here is to be submitted to your pastor. He's really the person in charge, and I want us to make sure that as a worship leader that we're really getting that idea. I've seen too many worship leaders who were working in rebellion against their senior pastor. I've seen worship leaders who up and left, took part of the congregation with them, just in a rebellious move. None of that stuff is going to end well. It just isn't in the long term. I don't care whether you think your pastor is right or wrong. That rebellious attitude in you needs to go if it's there. And so I just want you to take to heart what the things that Hugh said here about being submitted to your pastor, and what does that look like for you in your situation today, this week, this month, this year? What does that mean for you, and how do you apply what you just heard in your situation?
Brought to you by myworshipleadingcoach.com.
Helping you to be more fully equipped as a worship leader.